Okay, briefly, it is August 31st, and this is beginning of production again on the Old Transformers Mush. And we will start production again now that the California fires have died down a little bit, enough to do filming in the studio. Enough to do the filming. So the bad air was getting into the studio, making it impossible to film down in the valley. So the episode that is in the Pike or the Pipe, I guess it's Pipe. I'm not too clear on that. The episode is the Andrexus and combination with the Unicron and Overlords one. That's the one I'm working on. So, Clint Cowpoke was here earlier, so I guess he's going to take over directorial duty of that one because the other director that was slated was not available. Clint Cowpoke instead. So there have been some changes to directing it. So anyway, So that was just a quickie update. We're going into production for this episode. There won't be a lot of making of footage just because we're making too much making of footage. The episode, although we did get the robot that was on order during the hiatus, hasn't been quite a month. It's been a couple weeks. We did get the robot for the special scene where they do a robot. You'll see. There's another robot in it. So he's here. So he's gonna be there. Yeah. So that's it. Production begins again, and I think I'm gonna just end right here because this is just to say that the production was halted because the air quality was bad on set. There wasn't there were fires across the foothills, but the smoke was being wafted in this way, and so now it's lit up a little bit, enough to about 40% contain, something around there. It's nothing that's going to come here. It's just that the smoke from it. Anyway, so so that's it. Third, I think. Well, this here's Clint Cowpoke. And we're going to do some filming of the Transformer movie. It's Wednesday, 3rd, I think. So this scene is just going to be on a base. It's just what it is. So let's do it. Pod. Anyway, this is Clint Cowpoke on the set. This is a little bit of making of here. This is just a little. We finally got to actually shooting some of tonight's story. It's the Unicron and Overlords segment of the Andrexus story. They're together. This here author was Eamon A. Walford, and it was combined by Jody Anuk. She put it together with the other one. Secret Project and Return of Unicron is what they were originally. She put them together. And then when they had Andrexus, which is the Wrath planet / alien planet part. That's the middle. So this is sort of the beginning of it. And what Eamon was going for here is he meant the story to be about the 100th and 99th and 100th episodes of Transformers, which were never produced after the rebirth. The Japanese, he was not widely aware of the Japanese series that ignored the rebirth and showed the headmasters and the transdectors, put them in there. He did his own little version, so this is sort of like the Headmasters saga. Very similar. He must have had some awareness of it. Writing in the late 90s, he probably read some synopses online on the early internet about it and determined, I'll just do that. So it's connected to this other one, even though it really isn't. As for the backstory, yeah. Eamon Walford was banned from TF 2005 website from their websites in 2003. He wasn't allowed to be on there anymore. But we're putting his names in the credits. Okay, and the other one is Andrexus. Part 2 here. This is the next half here. Andrexus. And yeah, that one's a little different. That one's by Bloodcrow. Bloodcrow. That's a pseudonym for Belinda Kelly of TF, not Mush. It's for Belinda Kelly. No relation to Silly Kelly. Nope. That'd be Kelly Bullock. It'd be a different person. Belinda Kelly. So, yeah, and we decided that this trippy story about the future could be worked into yet another Wrath episode. Because they're allegedly going to Unicron, the story. So I thought, you know what, let's just kind of say the Wrath from the perspective of the Decepticons. So the Autobots are doing their thing here. And although it's not as dreamy and ethereal as the other one was, it's pretty on point because the Decepticons are more brutal and direct. So they're like, we're going to go in here and we're going to do some damage. So that's basically what I'm getting at here. And I know we didn't film much tonight, but I filmed more tomorrow, the whole day. So just to get everything started, find all the robots and everything. There were a few cameos, a Night Racer and Brekgar was going to be in there for like 4 minutes so we could spout off dialogue about, oh, this sale today, new model and all that. We don't need that. Let's just have Grapple say it. It makes more sense if we keep it with not introducing us to 15 different Autobots in the first 7 minutes, but rather just 3 or 4, and they're with Prime. It just works better that way. It's a more cohesive script. They're with Prime. And although we did not follow the dialogue directly at all, when we did extremely paraphrased it. Because, yeah, and he jumps back and forth from the Autobots to the Decepticons. In that 7 minute, I think we got up to, what did we get up to? Page 4, I think is what I got up to. Yeah, I ignored all the Galvatron stuff because I'm going to go back and film that on another set. But yeah, I'm setting up the sort of pseudo-rebirth type of thing. The Decepticons are coming. We got to go out there and fight them. Kind of deal. But, yeah, because that would be kind of a prologue-y kind of thing. They put this in the prologue. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, he won't recognize the story, really. It's completely, Jody changed it considerably. Woven in together. I think the two are not meant to be connected. And connected them. And then connected them to this third one, Andrexus. But yeah, so, yeah. Had to do it that way, because that's the way it is, so. Do it that way. I don't need to ramble too much about it, because this is what, basically, I think Kal Kat has already mentioned what was going on, direction it was going, and that it was one of the weaker ones. But having been familiar with doing ensemble cast Transformer adventures before, like Space Bridge, Shadow Children, and Return of the Shadow, and all that stuff, yeah, it's like I totally could do that. I'll direct it. Yeah, it's like okay, yeah. So yeah. But yeah, you gotta set up your story so your A story and B story come together. Your characters meet at a certain point. It's just good story writing that way. That's what was a little weak about it. Is there were just too many guys playing the same field. You got too many players on the field. You just can't tell who's who. Whereas if you're making it a few less than a dozen, it's easier to follow because then you just have those dozen doing their thing, and then you go on to the next thing. You can even have instances where the two of them are the only two in the shot. And that's more interesting than 7 or 8 people in the shot, and especially with 15 of them in the shot. So, yeah. So, sure. Also, I changed the where they talk to Regis Maximus. Assuming they're going to go onto the ship at some point. Maybe. Maybe not. And I also got the Scorponok. So that's in there. Also, we got we didn't get Combiner Wars Overlord. They do have one. Instead of that, we used we're going to use a movie edition Dark of the Moon? Yeah. No, not Dark of the Moon, the other one. The second one. Movie edition Jetfire from Transformers Michael Bay 2. That wasn't Dark of the Moon. That was the other one. The Extinction, Dark of the Moon. What was the second one? Anyways, the second one. Revenge of the Fallen. Okay. Revenge of the Fallen. Alright, yeah. That's it. Revenge of the Fallen. And, yeah, yeah, so yeah, there's Jetfire looked like Overlord, so we're just going to use him, because it makes more sense. Also, it's sort of an alternate universe anyway. Each episode of alternate Transformers Mush is considered. They're all considered different episodes, but they kind of have the same players. So you could say like, okay, it's a different timeline each time, really, because it's kind of connected to the other ones in terms of continuity, because we're keeping the continuity going. So we got Draconis Prime and Maxis Carta and some of the. We bring back Night Racer sometimes, and she's in it, and we bring back other ones. Because we want the continuity going, and RC is going to come back, but we want the continuity going, and that's what we want. In this timeline, in this continuity, it's sort of a reboot, which is what Corrosion was, wasn't it? That was actually really good. I like that one. I like that. I especially like the nods to, well, I was in it. Of course I like. Voice of Draconis Prime, in case you hadn't figured it out. Yeah. Well, I didn't direct any of those. I was just in it. Claim Camp. Here we go. Here's the. Yeah, so you have lots of figures from Sibling Rivalry. That was a previous one. That was funny. Yeah. Well, also the RC and Springer one was all lovey-dovey. I don't know, yeah, lovey-dovey stuff. But it was cool. It was a good episode. Turned out good. But yeah, although it's probably true that Draconis and Graxus Carta there, they kind of act like a couple. But not like in Brokeback Mountain where it ends all sad. Not like that. No, it ain't gonna end sad. Unless it's in the Decepticons' mind, they want it to end sad. So we're gonna bring in Galvatron and his minions attacking, not here, but on another set. Yeah, they're gonna transform and roll out. Yeah, so Cowpoke. Introduced as a character in earliest Kal Kat show. But there were earlier versions of him on the audio tapes, which you ain't never going to see. Because, yeah, lots of copyrighted music. We just watch the radio and record it. Yeah, you're not going to see that. Or the original Trans. Trans Tech, Transformers vs. Robotech, is a remake of the entire Trans series. You can go and watch that on Weird Kitty 07. Watch the whole thing. It's pretty awesome. It's in TV format. It's 4x3, but it's 720, I believe. For some of the, at least the first one is 720. I think the other two seasons are season 2 and 3 are 1080. I think they're 1080. I think they might be. I think, yeah. But the first one's 720, blown up from 480. And, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and then Space Bridge and all that. And we did all the other stuff, and never actually really did any kind of a official Carta. We had some Carta books that were in house, but it'd be cool to do it officially. So And of course, a nod to the G1 ones, making a little like a G1. Like you could actually make this as a toy. But yeah, it was way cheaper this time around to just use Transformers that were fairly obscure instead. Kind of like we did with Carter 2 back in 1994. Which we just said, no, it's not really Megatron, it's Battleship. Even though it was G2 Megatron. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a new one. It's going to be in the scene soon. Yeah, so this was just an intro. Just to bring the Autobots to the scene. This guy didn't know how to write a script. It wasn't meant as a script. It was meant as a... He kind of meant it to be one, but it's a fanfic. It's not a script. All of these are fanfics. They're not scripts. The closest anyone came to script writing was probably Rob Powers. His Corrosion of War was written like a screenplay. A very long, florid screenplay, but a screenplay nonetheless. Yeah, 7 parts, 1 hour long. That's pretty long. Yeah, so it was an epic. It was probably originally 14 episodes. It was a full season of Transformers, but we broke it into 7 parts, so a little more palatable as 1 hour episodes. So we've been doing 1 hour episodes the whole season. For an occasion, when we've done 1 or 2 that have been almost 80 minutes. So yeah, yeah, we're able to do that. So, well, I think we're done though for the night though. Because, yeah, reasons. But yeah, there's not much more to. So there won't be much more in terms of behind the scenes-y stuff. I'll try to keep the videos rolling to the end of the scene, so that we can just put the scenes together, so it doesn't burn up as much storage on the the flash drives. If we have like 15 extra story episodes, if we have like 27 entries, for instance, and they're all like 2 minutes long, the computer has trouble handling it, even though I don't know why it does, but it does. But if we make it instead 14 or 15 entries, or even less, then yeah, you can totally it's easier for the computer to handle putting it together, because it's just a straight run through. Just got to make sure they're not in blurry or anything. This is not a reshoot. This is a scene that we thought of while watching the dailies. They're all good. Prime's armor drops out of the story almost immediately after Overlord and the Decepticons show up. So, come up with a funny gag. This is going to be why it dropped out of the story almost immediately. They're going to do the Godzilla versus Bambi gag. So just like it gets broken. I'm not really going to break it. I'm just going to pretend to. But yeah. Okay. This is the 3rd of September. Yesterday was the 2nd. Today's the 3rd. So we have a cowpoke. I'm going to do some Transformer filming. No leader on this. This is the Galvatron readying the Decepticon scene for the attack. In the revised version, in this version, they're not after a sort of Vector Sigma like clone thing, which is essentially another Vector Sigma. They're not after another that. That doesn't make sense. To make him, because he's already there. So there he is. So they're not going to make him. He's already alive. They're after something else similar, but it's not going to make him alive. That don't make sense. So this is basically them deciding on their plan. It is in the script, but it's revised. So let's just do it. Yeah, September 4th. This is Not an addend to the scene, because the scene isn't done yet. This is the rest of the Autobots and Decepticons in the first chapter, basically, of the story. And he is blocked into chapters, which is interesting. So yeah. Yeah, we I don't know what they were doing when they put the script in there, but there it is. This here scene's going to be just some of the Transformers interacting to the impending battle. This is before Scorponok shows up. The scene where Scorponok crushes the armor is actually after this. So, yeah. And then immediately the Fortress Maximus and Metroplex show up. Because time and space is acting weird. So that hasn't happened yet. This is the battle. This is where they, after the Transformer roll out, this is the battle. This is where they come together to fight. They're going to fight. Or at least they're almost going to fight. I don't actually think they do. Anyway, let's do this. Okay, that should link us up to right where Scorponok flies in. After the transition hasn't transitioned over them yet, but Scorponok hasn't flown in yet either, so yeah. Okay, this is going to be some more of the battle scene and some more dialogue from the story, relatively put into the action. This is meant to, it's not filler, it's part of the story. This is before the cities show up. It's before they steal... They've stolen the weapon, but no, I guess they haven't stolen the weapon, because the way you had them steal the weapon, they transformed and they changed into... And those two were altered. So what this is before the... It's before that, before they steal it. So they don't just immediately steal it. They're fighting to distract them. This is a distraction before that happens. So... These guys show up, basically, over here. Okay, last 10 minutes on the tape. They're rolling, and this is Zarek's plan, but it's not Zarek, it's his plan. And yeah. This here's Clint Cowpoke on the set of well, not Trans, what is this? Transformers Mush. Yeah, so... We just got done up to page 11, or 12 roughly in the script. We've been basically improvising all the lines, because the weakness that was in it was actually the dialogue. So I've discussed it with Mark's cards, and he said, well, if you just improvise lines. And also, you can have the dozens of Transformers, you just have to have them have a motivation that leads them into the next episode. Yeah, you have to have they say, okay, well, we have to have them doing what they're doing, and if they're supposed to be there, then they're there. If they're not supposed to be there, then they're not. So we do have Wreck-Gar. We got some of the other introduces the Titan Masters instead of the Dinobots. It made more sense. Titan Masters and the cities. The cities show up, and it's sort of like this big city brawl. Let's do that next, and so that happens. But it's like an escalation of events. It's in the script like that. So it's like, well, if it gets that crazy, then it's like something weird is going on here. It's a paradox or something caused by the thing. They took the thing from Autobots, changed them, and that hasn't happened yet. We filmed the scenes before that happens, basically. Went back and shot the other Transformers in their scenes. So it all goes together, makes a pretty picture with a bow on it. It's actually really good, I think. I think it's looking good. Yeah, so there. Okay, so this is still September 4th. We've been using nothing but B-roll, now we're going to go to A-roll. This is directly after Scorponok steps on the thing. Yep, you're going to step on him. He's already stepped on him, but we're going to cut to the shot where he goes, I am Scorponok, because, yeah, that did match. We wanted to match with that sky being sort of darker, because otherwise it doesn't look right. So, yeah. This is a fucking city, right? Yeah. So we're going to cut to Scorponok's face. And him saying, I am Scorponok. I think I can remember that. Oh, so it's got to be a kind of a tight shot because he's tall. Action. Okay, what we just did was page 6. don't need any making there, because we're going on to do the tag team line, which pretty much is where it ends. So yeah, you can, well, I can make this making of, but it's only a few seconds. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on. There wasn't much in the script for that. I just wanted to do all the city stuff and get it in the can. So this is all the city stuff. I think that's in thing, really. They transform back to their headmasters, and then the headmasters talk. But as cities, the scale's weird. So here we have this. Okay. Well, we did another scene. We did the scene on page 6 and 7, where the 6 and 7. And a little bit of later on in the story, I think it's around 11 or 12, and then a little 13. But it's all going to be 6 or 7. That's where it should be. It's all before the transformation sequence. Because it fits better in the script that way. And they revealed that the Decepticon guy is actually trying to stop them because he doesn't want Nebulus destroyed. So, which is consistent with his character, because in the Rebirth, which this is sort of a loose parody, loose remake kind of thing of, because the guy didn't know that just cribbing dialogue from the Rebirth, which he did in the first couple pages, and cribbing it from other episodes, that makes it right? We'll just like use ideas from the other episodes and just throw them in there, like Rekgar talking all funny and whatever. And it's like no. In order to make this work, you gotta have them be similar, but not use the same dialogue they've already said. Cut saying, the battle on Alpha 9, the Petro Rabbits. It's like, why would he say that again? No, it's some other place that he's talking about. Rekgar talking about other things. It's something else he's talking about. So I decided, what would happen if the City Masters, because the scene doesn't end, there's no transition. They just show up and they do a tag team. Well, Trypticon's supposed to be there too, but in the script, he doesn't do anything. So even if I have older Trypticon, get him out, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have any dialogue, doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything. So I figured, well, even though there's one on the way, there's a new one on the way. We don't need it in this episode. It's just the Titans. Partly Zarek gives up because there's 2 other Autobots, but also because he realizes that he gave Galvatron the idea in the earlier chapters that you should go and find this Matrix thing, and that the other Megatron gave him the idea. So that's in there. So rather than having them show convoluted technobabble about Zarek's plan with Galvatron, it's more effective to show the cities discussing that it happened, rather than literally telling the audience. They're going to show it instead of telling the audience. But they're telling it a little bit, but at least they're saying, okay, their reasons are that the reasons for doing what they're doing is that the cities that Zarek is a weird, crazy guy, and he's from the Nebulon humans. He's the Nebulons, the Titan Transtector guys, and it's like in the Rebirth when he said, "This is your funeral to Spike." He's going to fight Spike and Cerebros and Fortress Maximus, and he tells him, when you die, they all die. So he's like, I'm gonna cack everybody if you die. So he basically tells Fortress Maximus, defeat me so that you won't die. He tells him that. I don't think that's what he meant, but it's kind of funny if he did mean that. So in this version, he's saying kind of the same thing. He's saying, well, you guys could beat me up, but then all your friends would get crushed. And Spike is almost thinking about it. He's like, well, I hope not. And then he realizes, oh, yeah, that's probably a bad idea. I'm going to kill the... Yeah, why would I do that? I'm a Decepticon if I do that. Fortress Maximus shows up. Metroplex shows up. And stops them from about to step on each other and fight each other. And they talk about the Overlord. Not the Overlord, the alien, the Liege Maximo cult Decepticon that showed up and is manipulating Galvatron, who is a weaker mind than Megatron in the story, the other Galvatron from the other universe. And he's basically telling them, go and do this and steal the power matrix and all that. He's obviously already got something besides the power matrix, because Zarek is huge now. And the thing is gigantic now. So something happened to him that's made him powerful and Titan Master sized. And he's bigger. So something happened. But and And so, yeah, we don't really need Triptychon in the scene. I mean, if he shows up in the next couple days, he can be in it, but he'd be in the next one, I would think. But, no, we should stay with the script and not run off on a tangent. So, yeah, my idea here is that I'm going to show the city. So I filmed just what the cities were doing. And, yeah, have them talking to each other, discussing the situation. And they're Titans. And it's a little bit of a reference to Greek Titans, the Greek god Titans. In that they're just like above everyone, literally like taller than everyone else, which is funny. They're these giant, huge, like city robots. They couldn't really be cities, though. I know in the show that they're cities, but they're probably just really, really tall buildings. Because it never made sense that they were a whole like city miles across. It looked more like, even in Transformers the movie, that Metroplex was, the greater area around Metroplex was probably no bigger than a mile. I mean, really, it's ridiculous that it would be like a city, like 6 square miles or something. It would still be really big. Even if it's more than a mile long, then he's like, yeah, you can have like all the Transformers inside him. It's a mile long, come on. It's like, but a mile is a lot. Yeah, so he's as big as the STF-3, basically, 2.5 miles. But that makes more sense. But yeah, so they never really explained that. But yeah, so he's the STF Autobot, obviously from Trans. But yeah, but it's Metroplex. Those are the Titan Masters. And the Titans are the wrong scale. They made the new Titans all smaller than everybody else. So whenever Prime's in the room with them, as you can see, we decided to introduce them now in this episode rather than later, and that's fine because they are basically background characters, and except for Beast Mix and the two others in the script, at least, Beast Mix and the Overlord and the others that become the Andraxians. I've introduced them so they'll become the Andraxians in the Andraxian stories. So it'll work. And that was by someone else. That was by Blood Crow. So what's going on is Megatron has messed with time and space and brought the Wrath and the Herald. The Herald's probably tomorrow. We're going to film the Herald, not tonight. But yeah, the Herald of Unicron, who's an Armada Unicron. He shows up again. So he's after Unicron, which is part of the Overlord and Unicron story. But he doesn't bring back Unicron literally because that's impossible and dumb, and Earth would be destroyed. So now it's another city, another Titan shows up, basically. So this other Titan shows up, and Galvatron talks to it to try to convince him to open the porthole or whatever. So yeah, this set could be struck unless you want to... I'm going to keep the set up and do the other Autobots and stuff that are in the set. And then tomorrow, I'm going to keep the set up and do all of their scenes and then strike the set and put them on the other stuff because then it would match up better. So that's my evening. Is a dimensional fantasy that's going on. Not quite a dream though, because the Wrath Planet works in dimensions. So even the last time we've been to the Wrath Planet, which was 2 episodes ago, it was in dreams as well. So it wasn't technically a dream because it did affect the past, present, and future in the space timeline, in the space bridge timeline. It did actually cause some things to happen somewhere. So it wasn't entirely a dream. So yeah, so it's kind of convoluted. And September 5th, and this is some dialogue between Lord Zarek and Galvatron, and it's related to the two of them discussing getting the power matrix thing, or the creation matrix. It's in the script. It needs to be here. This is actually footage that would be before their plan is hatched on Earth and he merges to form Scorponok. So before the Scorponok scene. So this is them together. So let's go. Okay, this scene is sort of the morgues of Kali scene, kind of. This is before the battle starts. The Nebulons go up to Rodimus here, and they talk to him to let them know they've arrived. This is before the battle, of course, and they've arrived. So we know the city is around. Well, Fortress Maximus is around, and Cerebros. So yeah, Cerebros, which is funny because it's also Cerebros in Marvel, and it's like it's weird sort of tie-in, but it's not really because he's not the Cerebros. He's not the computer, transformer. That apparently they've got a. I guess they spell it differently, Cerebrus, but it's anyway. So here it is. There's the scene, kind of in the script. I'm gonna ad lib again, and yeah, just want to ad lib it. Well, let's do it. So this is going to be in presumably they've returned to Scorponok after the time change happened, the warp or whatever, so that they've recouped their forces. This is after the Transformers showed up, the cities showed up. They were going to fight, but they didn't, and then the transformation and the battle happens. So they have now backed off. The cities have backed off, and Galvatron and his minions have the item. So they've returned. This is this page right here. So that's what that is. Still rolling, and on to the next scene. I realized I didn't need to stop there. But we're going to go on to the next scene, so we're going to keep rolling. So what happens is, he goes out to find Dracunus, but he finds him slightly altered by the... Okay. Yeah, I got to... Okay, leading into this next scene. Alright, some leader. I made a few revisions to what's the dialogue of the script. We are racing on to... Well, not racing on. Okay, what was previously done was I had some of the fight. We condensed the fight scene that the other headmasters just grandstand back and forth, and did that. We kind of already did that in the other scene, and they just kind of do it again. So that scene on page 19 and 20 isn't there anymore. So this is 20 and 21. This is when Overlord fought Dracunus and captured him. And in the script, he just beat him up. But here's going to capture him and bring him to Galvatron, so that we have a little more dynamics in the scene. See, it's more dynamic, more interesting. He brings him to him. See, yeah, and then go from there. This here's Clan Cowpoke. As you know from my voice changing back and forth, it's Kal Kat. Anyway, so it's the same guy. Anyway, so yeah, that's really obvious. It's not like skits or nothing. Anyway, so but I'd just like to say that this adventure here is here's what we were able to finish the first up to the end of the Overlord scene. Basically, it's the end of the Overlord part. So next is the Unicron part, which is more like Andrexus. The next one's that one, so it's more like Andrexus. There's like this weird, the Autobots are acting strange and different and stuff. So that's like the lead into the Andrexus story, and then the Overlord thing. But in this version of the story, unlike the RC and Springer one, where the action inside Wrath, you actually discover from the opening, like first 7 or minutes or so, that they're already going there and in there, but they think they're going there, so they're already there. In this case, they're on their way there for the first 20 minutes, and then they go in. So this one, they're on their way, so that's a little different. So they're trying to find it in that way, and that's different. That is different. So it's less a ethereal, dimension hopping, pseudo dream, other dimensions become reality as their fantasies become reality thing, and that creates another entropy timeline. It's less that and more the Decepticons want to win, so they're going to cheat by going to meet up with the Wrath alien that likes all hatred and wrath. That's their plan. But it'll be different for them than it would be the Autobots, and so we will see inside the Andrexus story, which is the Blood Crow story, that's interwoven into this, what's going on in the interim. I would think that the Unicron part would then be they'd be heading toward the Unicron part, which is the next 26 pages or so, something like that. So it's another 6 pages. It's another story. The episodes 1 and 2 were the Overlord ones. He didn't know what he was talking about. The guy, Walfred Eamon was these will be the 99th and 100th episode in only 22 minutes. Wouldn't have been long enough. It would have been just 22 minutes. It would have been one episode. And that's what we shot. We did change all the dialogue so it's a Kal Kat story, but we had to change the dialogue because the dialogue was the weakest part. The rest of the remaining, the Unicron part is better written, and the Andrexus part is better written. So yeah, so it was just the beginning, and you gotta have a good opening. Gotta have a good opening. So yeah, so it works. Now it's the end for the night. So it is the 7th. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday. We have... This is the Andrexus, and this is the remainder of the script from last night. Yeah. Already shot the footage of the of him betraying him, but we made it the brother instead, which makes more sense. And this scene is going to be them coming to Overlord, coming to Megatron to talk to him, and then Megatron making him swear his loyalty. And then we go on to them entering the space bridge to go to Andrexus. They're about to enter the space bridge, but before they leave, they decide to shoot at the Autobots and the Titans because yeah, why not? Or yeah, because then they won't follow them. You see. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. That's in the script, and then they go to meet Unicron. Yeah. Or I could bring Unicron to Nebulus. Have them pop in, like I could do that. So they don't have to go anywhere. So that Andrexus is entirely its own thing elsewhere. Kind of makes sense to do something like that. So yeah. Okay. So there's I changed the battle scene, and yeah. So here we're just going to film, and so it's not a battle scene. It's a stalemate. This is not a making. I guess it could be though. So that's what we're doing. I've reworked that scene to make it not just they're fighting again and then they go to Unicron. No, they talk it out because that makes more sense visually. So now we're going to go to the scene where the Decepticons leave Overlord, ready to go, and they go to Unicron. The next scene they're at Unicron. So yeah, this is just a slight making of thing. Looking back on the scene that was just shot, and there's I was looking back on last night on when the Armada saga takes place, right? There are multiple. Well, there's at least 2 or 3 sources, but we're not sure who they are. But Armada, the cartoon, started in 2002, 2003, based on a 2001 cartoon series called the Unicron Dailatsu, Clone Wars, basically. The Minicon Wars, basically. Then there was Energon, Transformers Energon, which was Super Combiner Force Daihatsu War. Yeah, and then there was Cybertron, which was Cyber Planet Key War. Cyber Key War thing. They were all Japanese shows between 2003 and 2 and 5, and they were redubbed into English. Basically a Japanese new Transformer run on the heels of the original Robots in Disguise, Car Robot 2000, which was called Robots in Disguise here in 2001, and is yet to see a full U.S. release. But we have copies of it from the airing on Fox, which people have recorded it and bootlegged it to conventions. I had a recording from a recording, so no, we're not going to put that out, obviously. But yeah, I have a recording of it to watch, just privately. It's not very good. Anyway, there was a re-release of Car Robot in 2017, but it wasn't Robots in Disguise. They just used the name after Transformers Prime ended. So the thing is that Transformers, so the thing is that Armada on TF 2005 says it's 2020 or 2010 or 2030. They can't seem to decide. However, in the dialogue, it does say 2020. Even though the earlier Armada's 2010. Pretty sure Armada is 2010 up until the end, and then they sort of jump to Cybertron and Energon being 2020 and 2030 respectively. Not 10 years difference, because they're clearly 10 years older each time. The third one could be older. It's weird. It's the Unicron Trilogy. They brought back Unicron, but they made him a space-time demigod, sort of a X-Men Watcher kind of Unicron. He wasn't really. He had Unicron powers, but he wasn't a monster planet. He kind of was, but he was creating the Minicons and the Dark Energon and all that was earlier, And then they put it in Transformers Prime. And Transformers Prime got it wrong because they were like, oh, we're going to just have Unicron be inside the Earth so that we don't need to leave the Earth. So this is sort of playing on that, sort of a joke on that. I wanted to bring the action in the story since he goes to 3 different planets, including Char and Junkion and everything. The writer, Alt Walfred, goes back and forth. That this one should all be this first half of the story, basically. The Unicrons and Overlords stories should be actually all taking place on Nebulus. So in this version, it's all Nebulus. It works. Now we're going to get up to the last part here of this chapter. We're going to go on to Andrexus, where they defeat Unicron, but not in the same ways in the script. The rewrite, the Jody Onuk rewrite, did add the Matrix part. So this part sort of subdues that and says, no, let's go with his script a little more. Let's do that instead. Just because it's Transformers the movie again. And if you just copy the rest of it was copying Transformers the movie over Hot Rod shows up. So in the next scene, they do that. But yeah, if Armada took place at some point, part of it in 2020, then mainly Energon would have taken place in 2020. So Energon would have taken place in 2020, and that's now. So the whole universe is like, yeah. The Galvatron and the Galvatron and the Megatron and the Unicron are from that timeline. They're from Energon. So so they would know. They're from Energon. They're from the Microlink, Super Microlink Changer. That's what it was called. But they don't microlink, which is interesting. The Decepticons don't. And they made their own Magnasword and everything. And although there's no Requiem Blaster in it, they had a Requiem Blaster because that's right out of Carta and Trans. Yes, somehow Hasbro knew about our fan films before our fan films were released. Not possible unless somehow we had some weird connection. I think what it is, though, is the Requiem Blaster and the Skyboom Shield and all that. Those icons were in the same source book. So now we're going to switch to... So that's the Armada stuff that's going on here. This is mainly an Armada episode. That's cool. It's a throwback to Armada. That's neat. And Power of the Primes and Titan Masters, which is the current thing. This is so far better than the Titan Wars animated thing online. Only because the Titan Wars thing was kind of a mess. The new one needs some work, but it's a little better. But and I can say that because I'm not on it, I'm not involved in it. So I don't know. She's got secrets. Yeah, there was 1 or 2 comments saying like, "Can I write for your show?" No. There's no writing contest. There isn't. The scripts are from 17 years ago, from Transnick magazine. So that their statute of limitations on them has expired. I don't have to put even bylines but I put in bylines anyway. Also, I don't have to necessarily. There's no AdSense. I can't pay them. So, yeah. Revisions, line retakes. Watch the dailies. Megatron's head was popped down. Technically a blooper, but we really haven't officially made any bloopers, so no, this is just retakes on the same day, so it's not like it's really retakes. So yeah. This here's Clan Cowpoke. I'll try to stay in character as long as possible. Now this we could not have possibly filmed this 6-hour shoot the early part of today. Last night. That would have been insane. It would have been like 2 in the morning. So we filmed it in the morning here on Monday. We got up to the point in the script in which we have left Eamon Walfred's story just now. And it is 2 or something like that. So, yeah, and now we're going to go on to Andrexus. Now, so I reshot. So we did reshot a few scenes that were a little gonky. I'm going to check the dailies on this one, make sure they're not. There was a big Unicron battle / Transformers movie / the Rebirth crossover thing going on in the script. We changed that. Some of it was added by Jody Anuck's rewrite. We took that out. We used his version. So we went back and used his version for most of the ending. So yeah, we didn't have them using the Matrix to stop Unicron because it's not the same Unicron. In this universe, it's the Armada one. It turns out he's actually smaller than Metroplex, so he's actually the Herald. He's not Unicron. Yeah, he's smaller. He's the Herald of Unicron and the Chaos Bearer. And we get to meet him, and and Andrexus doesn't actually have him in it because it wasn't included. But it's going to now, and it's going to have these guys that I chose for the end of the scene to be in it. All the other Transformers in the story, they're not in the last part of it. All of the other ones. All the other ones can go back in the box, because just these ones here, this last scene, they're in Andrexus with the Decepticons. Well, the Decepticons are the Decepticons. They're all there, but the you got Overlord, Galvatron, Megatron, and the other Megatron are in the Andrexus. Yes. And they're going to go in there and infiltrate it. Now, in the other version of Transitions of Wrath, in that version, they were trapped in it within 6 minutes. But in this one, I wanted it to be a journey to Andrexus. Now, that takes up half the story to get there. And I wanted to have it, all be on Nebulus before they go there, because that makes more sense. So, Headmasters, Nebulus, Titan Masters. We were going to show that. We were going to get around to it. Now we showed it here. So, yeah, it was going to happen. And the other stories that coming up are the Stranded, Underground, Redemption, Head of the Hydra, a number of other ones. I think there's 6 more, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, 5 or 6 more stories. But yeah, this is the end of that one, and this is the end of the making of. I'm trying to make the making of shorter, so that they're not overly done. I'm going to watch the dailies. Okay, this is a bridge between this story and the other story. Real brief bridge. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so this is kind of making, but I want to get to the bridge because there's 19 minutes on tape. So, yeah. So that's making of, yeah, this is going to be the headmasters arriving at Andrexus. Okay, so, yeah. Yeah, real brief, but that was a reshoot of Unicron and Galvatron's dialogue, which was an improvised scene that was done early on, and it had some blurry dialogue from Galvatron, so I decided, let's just reshoot it. The whole scene, because this camera's a little better, it'll look cooler. So, reshoot the whole scene, it wasn't that long. And then we're going to go on to the next other stuff, hoping that this scene is not blurry this time around. Yeah. And then go on to the next 2 scenes that are on this disc, on this tape. So this scene is another scene in the movie near around page 29, 30. This is a scene where we have Megatron, not Galvatron, because Galvatron left. Megatron and some other Decepticons show up to rescue him, who is turned back. And they're going to shoot at some of the Autobots. And yeah, so we got some Decepticons there. Yeah. Okay, I just read on ahead through chapter 5, and going over it, and the chapter 5 is as weak as chapter 1 was, because it's all just the Decepticons slaughtering half of the Transformers from the story, which if they were in the Wrath Planet already would make sense, but they're not. So, Megatron showing up here instead of Galvatron makes sense, so it's Megatron. But we don't want to introduce a bunch of this guy has a propensity in this story to just throw in random new Transformers and then kill them. Just because, it's like Transformers the movie, we'll just take random other Transformers and kill them. Knocking them down is fine in this version. So I was just saying, they're knocking them down. So they may not kill them, they knocked them down. So yeah, that makes more sense, because it is, after all, sort of a fantasy comedy version of the story. If we actually, literally kill Transformers and establish, okay, these guys actually die, then yeah, it's not a parody, it's just a dark, brooding sort of, I don't like Autobots, so I'm a Decepticon, so rawr. Well, no, it's gotta make sense. So chapter 4 was 31 to 35 or so. Chapter 4 was roughly, or Act 4 was roughly, it's probably considered Act 2, technically. It's the middle of the story, technically. It's a 3-act play where he didn't add a 3rd act. So he basically made Andrexus the 3rd act, is what happened. So in this version, we're getting near the middle of the end of the 1st act and into the next act. And I think that when you put it all together, it's going to be an hour. It doesn't look like it's going to be an hour. I think it's just going to be an hour. So we are treating it as though it's going to be an hour. If it's a little over that, that's fine. I don't think it's going to be. The dialogue, we've been changing the dialogue as we go. We've been not using Walfred's dialogue just in case. Well, not just in case. We know we got banned off the one TF board years ago, and hasn't been seen since. So it doesn't matter if but he's getting the byline anyway for that half of the story, even though we don't know who he is, so the dialogue though gets changed, not because of copyright, but because the dialogue isn't, in the words of Harrison Ford from years ago to Lucas, you can type this, George, but you can't say it. A lot of the dialogue is either very cheesy, and I did throw the Autobots thing in there because that was funny, but the other stuff in there, no, we don't want to use that. So basically, let's. I haven't done any behind the scenes here. Here's a little behind the scenes so far today. This whole day shoot, because I wanted to get through half of this thing in a day. That'd be awesome. To get up to Andrexus would be awesome. The Andrexus part. So I sort of condensed the action of the Galvatron returning scene as Megatron showing up looking for his brother. Instead of it being like, he gets changed into Megatron later, comes Lord Megatron, and it's really awesome because he's new and he's a tank again, and ooh. No, there were 2 of them. We established that Corrosion War with that end. There's at least 3. It could be another Megatron. But no, it's the brother of the other Megatron Galvatron from Armada. That's what's going on. The Armada guys have made a deal with some of the Minicons and the Armada guys, Decepticons, to come out and make trouble in this universe, in the Prime universe. We're in the Transformers Prime universe, apparently, which is a little different than the one from the last episode. And But we're kind of mixed in with the other universe too. We're mixed in with the other Cybertron 2020 Transformers universe, Mush universe. So it's a crisis on infinite universes, and they none of them know where the Matrix went, but they soon will. And they would basically have. We showed Shockwave's compass gets knocked down. He was arrested in the other story, but we also established that the Shockwave from this universe / the other universe was in prison, like the rapey one, and that this one is saying stuff like Wrath Planet just made you think that stuff happened and it didn't, which is kind of interesting. And then Soundwave says, well, some of it did. Which is funny. Some of it happened. Just not sure what. So let's make it ambiguous. So, yeah. So Rapey Shockwave is from Transformers Prime. Was a bad guy in the other universe. But yeah, and they're not at Wrath Planet yet. This is just the Decepticons kicking Autobots' butts. But I wanted to do it in a way where it wasn't just like, oh, they get together and all of them fight to the death. It's like, we did that in the movie. We don't need to do that here. The Transformers movie, we did that in that one. Yeah, they're just getting knocked down. So that's, and my consternation of the last chapter that I just read that I haven't filmed yet is that more of that knocking down stuff, other Transformers that are in this story, makes more sense than adding 15 other Autobots just to kill them. Why do that? It's like, why not just put the ones that I've already shown in situations where it's dire and have them fighting each other. That's what makes more sense. You could follow the action that way. So that's how you make a narrative. You say, okay, I'm going to put these characters in this narrative, and I want them to suffer through the narrative. We actually have Megatron comment that he likes Schadenfreude. He likes the Schadenfreude, which is he takes pleasure in other people's pain. So sounds like something you do. Yeah. So let's do the next chapter. This is Kal Kat, obviously. So yeah, we're coming up on the end of this segment of this half of the story. The changes here are to make it less like Transformers the movie, because the author of this story decided, oh, we'll just bring back Unicron and have him remake Galvatron as Megatron, which is basically the other way around. And then let's have Megatron show up and beat up his creation, which is Megatron essentially fighting Galvatron. They've already done that. Or Megatron fighting Trypticon, they wouldn't have done that. But it's like, yeah, he's fighting his creation. Like him fighting Cyclonus, or him fighting, which they did in the story, and Scourge. But yeah, no, he shouldn't fight Cyclonus and Scourge. That's dumb. He shouldn't get reformatted either, because that's Transformers the movie. So Unicron does find him on the other end of the space bridge, but he doesn't revive him. Something else is going to happen. And then Megatron is going to meet up with... Megatron's going to meet up with this grandstanding guy instead. So it is the Lord Megatron scene. It's just the proper Megatron for the scene. It's the proper guy. It's what should happen if they met, as opposed to, like, okay, Space Bridge Unicron thing. That's what happened if they met. So let's do that. Yeah. So yeah, still making of a Transformers thing. It is still the 6th. Yeah. Had a whole day shoot. Well, almost whole day shoot. And we're able to knock out most of the, well, basically another 20 minutes is what we did of the script. Bringing us from 22 to, what, 44 in the story. And 20 minutes of script, so 44 minutes into the allegedly, if you put all the pieces together. The Andrexus part is another 50 pages, but it is not going to be 45 more minutes. So it's probably going to be like an 80-minute movie, maybe, roughly. I didn't add anything new. What we did is Cowpoke and I did is we basically re-envisioned the whole story pretty much, except as a trans tech and fit it in with the all Transformers Mush dynamic, and Draconis and everybody's in it. Megatron's in it. Galvatron's in it, and decided not to include a lot of the bizarre extra characters they threw in there just to kill them. They had all kinds of characters that they just randomly had in there to kill them. They had 6-Shot and Quick Switch just to kill them. They had Cup just to kill him. They had Wreck-Gar, they killed him. They had Goldbug, they killed him, but they rebuilt him. I changed that to Cup and had him get rebuilt, just fixed, I made Hardhead and the other guy instead of Brainstorm, because I don't have a Brainstorm of the newer Titan Masters, so I couldn't use him. So it's a newer Titan Master. It was the two other guys, and I'm blanking on the Copter one at the moment. But anyway, Hardhead or something. But anyway, so Chrome Dome and them. Yeah. So also it's a common thing with the Transformers fans from this time period to just crib lines and ideas and concepts from the show to make their version of the show, which is fine if you were trans and back in the day Transformers, that is. If you were it's fine if you were like a teenager and you didn't know any better. But I think this person is probably just this person was an adult, but knew better, but did it anyway. I don't know if he got what transpired that got him kicked off a TF board, but the idea that the characters kept in the story, at least, which was written about probably like in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would say late 90s. He wanted to capitalize on the 99th and 100th episode, which never existed, of Transformers, and do his own version. Unfortunately, the story itself was basically a rewrite of Transformers the movie, but in reverse, with the various recreations and deaths in reverse. Extra matrices showing up, which is perfectly alright in the original. I did stuff like that too. We did stuff like that too. But in this version, it's all Transformers Mush, and it's not Trans Tech, which had some of that. It's not our earlier stuff. It's all Transformers Mush, and we don't want to do that a lot. We don't want to have it be, its own thing. So we didn't do that. So yeah, we fixed it. So it's not weak anymore. It's a good story. We fixed it, basically. We took we had a Megatron and a Galvatron in the same universe already. So we just said, okay, he doesn't reformat him into Megatron. It's that he doesn't want to. It's that the brother is there to talk to him. And because he's a bad guy, he shoots him. He orders him shot. It's messed up. Anyway, so yeah, that's so far that's what we did. Yeah, so he met Unicron and was disappointed. I'm like, yeah, but he's a herald of Unicron. He's of his universe. Turns out he's an Armada Unicron, not the one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's it for the evening. It's a little after 9, and I think it's a little after 9. So that is the end of a full day shoot of the movie. I'm sure we're going to get second half done tomorrow, easily. It's only another 22, 23 pages. Yeah, there's no reason we couldn't complete the second half. It seems to be mainly a Beast Mix episode, which is interesting at this point. It's like, how did Beast Mix become the in-charge guy? Well, it's going to become clear in the story as we go what happened. Apparently, it's sort of a pseudo Beast Wars beginning in this universe, this the altered universe, inside the Wrath planet's clutches. So it's not really how it happened. It's just what the Decepticons would think happened. So there's layers of weird stuff going on. So I take it at this point from the story, and I have read ahead, but I take it from the point of the story that Starscream defeated all three Megatrons, leaving Beast Mix in charge in terms of the fantasy that was going on for Starscream, so that Beast Mix is running around believing that he conquered everybody because he's like the one that wasn't killed by Starscream. That's probably what's going on. So we get to see some of the minor characters like Beast Mix acting like they're in charge, even though they really aren't. They just think they are. And Starscream thinks he defeated everybody. And those Autobots, well, they're not really zombies. So you'll see as it goes on. So, yeah. There we go. And also the gag with Windblade as BladeCon was funny, implying that she's in this universe. He imagines that she would be helping him because he's imagining it. Yeah. She's not. It's just yeah. We'll see. Anyway, so yeah. There we go. It is September 8th, 2020. 54th birthday of Star Trek. 1966 to 1966 to 2020. It's the 54th birthday of Star Trek. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to be doing some Transformer filming. Finishing up. We did about 20 pages of the Andrexus part last night because it was easy, because the Andrexus part is just basically main character talking to other characters, so it's pretty easy. So that wasn't that hard. So yeah, there's no space battles in the first half of Andrexus at all. So yeah, it's a lot of you want to keep consistency with the story, though. You don't want to have it be so completely different that it's like the story is completely alien to the other one and doesn't connect. It does connect. Yeah, so let's do it. Page 27. The meeting with Emperor Starscream. It's really, really obvious. And it's in the script. Yeah. And it's very much like City That Time Forgot, but that was 95 and you'll never see it. So let's just roll it. Yeah, so except it made it look cooler. Okay, so we are going to start rolling here. Okay, brief update here on the set. We're going through the script. We're at page 31 roughly. We should be done within an hour. I don't think, because it's just characters. There's a lot of dialogue right here. We're going to do a few alterations to what's going on to make it an interesting scene and not just random talking to each other. But also, it appears that Blood Crow, aka Belinda Kelly, the character, wrote a sequel to Andrexus, and we found it. So yeah, so save the sequel. It was written just at the end of the 2003 Trans Tech era, so it would have been in the books had the Trans Tech book series continued. We would have read it. So it doesn't count as TF 2005. It counts as TS 2003. So it's longer. It's twice as long as this script. I don't know if it's going to get shot next season. Maybe, I don't know. But it's basically more Lord Starscream, Commander stuff. It's kind of fun. Because it's more of that. It's called Andrexus 7, Lord of Starscream. So. Also, note that Andrexus is also a World of Warcraft character. I don't think intentionally, though. I think the Transformer version was probably first, but Transformers fans have played World of Warcraft, so there you go. That's a larger venue anyway. It's sort of like orcs. You can't copyright orcs or trolls or whatever. They're kind of like, that's the thing. Elves. Spock is basically an elf. A tall elf, you know. But yeah, so I was like, yeah, he's a Vulcan elf, yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting that there is a sequel, and that it is known on the lexicon board, and it's a sequel. I'm not sure if it's any good, but I downloaded it. We can look at it later. Sure. Uh, so, but for now, I'm gonna go back to filming the rest of the story and see where that goes from there. So let's do that. But there is a sequel to this. We're not saying we're going to shoot it. We're just as a story. We're just saying we're going to do this one, finish this one. But yeah, that would be kind of cool to do that eventually. Yeah. But it's not connected to this season. We don't even know if it's good, but we know it's a sequel. There is one. And she didn't get kicked off the boards. She's around. Well, indirectly, or she was around in 2003. We don't know now, 17 years later. Probably not. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. More Starscream. She was a Starscream thing going on. Yeah, so it's simply kind of like City That Time Forgot, which was 96, of which this original story is very similar to. Probably because I read this years ago, and when we did City That Time Forgot, in the 90s, it's kind of similar. Similar idea. So I don't think I think City was first, though. I think it's 95, 96, so it was a little before the story, so it doesn't matter really, because it's the same idea. What would happen if Starscream in a what-if scenario was in charge? Go from there. You know, it's not like it's an original concept, really. I mean, he kind of tried to do that in Armada as well, so yeah. Anyway, so all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck. All we need is a little energon and a lot of luck. More than you imagine, Optimus Prime. Yes, yeah, this is Clint Cowpoke, the Trans-Tech voice of Prime. Yes, I do it. I do it pretty good. Better than that one I'm doing in the game version. Yeah, which was not actually Peter Cullen in the Netflix show. It's somebody else that isn't quite doing it right. That's when Bumblebee was somebody else too. Anyway, so this was we have completed principal photography on this story. Apparently, there is a sequel, which is part 7. Apparently. Called 7, but it's weird because 1 and 2 is 1 and 2. 2 is called 1 and is actually 1 and 2, so it's weird that there aren't 7 of them. It should be called Andrexus and then Andrexus 2 Lord Starscream is the sequel, but it's called 7 because of where they stored it on the tape on the on Lexicon 2003. So the new one. We're pretty much locked down on what season what's the rest of this season. So we're probably not gonna do another Lord Starscream this season. There could be other seasons, who knows? We wouldn't do the sequel right off because it could be considerably different. It was written a little later. We'd have to read it first. So yeah, that's later. But yeah, today is the 54th birthday of Star Trek. So there's like there's a Discovery trailer, 3188, I guess. It's Ulysses 31. No. It looks like there's a Kal Kat one in there. Oh, no. Now, maybe there is. Anyway, so here we are on the Transformer set, having finished this one. And now we're going to put it together, and here you have your film. Hopefully the making of stuff is not that intense. Somewhere in between all this stuff, there are here and there some bloopers, but I wouldn't bother with them because they're just like, oh, something fell over. Or there's a cat. Or you get boring. If you want to bother going through them all looking for just the bloopers, then sure. But there's really no point in doing that. So this one is making up, and here we're finishing up on the 8th of September. And yeah, it's cool that they usually say something more about the writer of the second story. The second story went really well because it was better written, not just because of the lady writer, but because they understand character development a little better. I think she was probably a writing student, and she understood, or at least had writing experience. And she's like, oh, I need to make characters that do something in their situation. I need to give them backstory. What would happen in this what-if scenario if Starscream was in charge, and what would be going on? It was not originally a story about the Wrath Planet, being the second half of the other story. I think in this, though, when you put all this together, it's probably going to be... I'm going to guess that the first 2/3 are the other story, and this is the last third. This is the third act. I think that's what's going to happen, and I think it's going to be a movie. We added a few... Well, I didn't add. I filled in... Not really filled in, either. We sort of put in scenes that would have been plot holes to fix the plot hole of where these guys went in here on this tape. The what if Starscream thing is a common thing in Transformers. It's not like City of the Time Forgotten. 1995, 96 didn't champion that necessarily. Trans 2 didn't champion that. And when we say trans, we mean Transformers. We don't mean transgendered or trans whatever. Transformers. Well, we kind of joked about that in there, cis and trans. But no, it's Transformers. It's just robots, changing robots in disguise. Yeah, if anything, they would be transvestites, not transgenders, because they can transform into other vehicles and stuff. Anyway, but yeah, that's different. That's completely different. For Shatner going on about cis or whatever, he just didn't know. I think he just grabbed a modern term and he was like, "I'm going to use this," even though it kind of doesn't work. No, Shatner, you're straight. You're not cis. You're just straight. Cis is something else. I guess there's a dichotomy between how you your gender or your gender assignment or your role. See, that's the difference. So, kind of cis means the opposite of transgender. It means that doesn't move. It means cis. It means the same assignment matches your birth gene genetically. So if you were born a male, you're a male. That's what it means. You're born a female, you're a female. That's what that means. It's not the same thing as your provocateur. It's not the same thing as your... I'm talking about that. But it's not the same thing as your preference. It's a gender assignment. It's not a preference. So yeah. But he's old school. Shatner's he's like a baby boomer, so he's probably, he's in his 80s. He's old school. Ironically, though, Kirk would be a Metro. He'd be into everything. He would be a Metro. He would not identify as cis necessarily, or as straight. He would say, no, I'm bi. I've done everything. Everything. Because he did. He's Kirk. Shatner himself is not bi. But totally, yeah. Kirk totally is. So there you go. If he was playing Kirk, again, he would be like, oh, well, yes, Kirk would go for anything that moves. Male, female, I don't care. It could be a plant, I'll do it too. Or a lizard, or a bird alien. Yeah. McCoy would say, you've got chirpies again, Jim. You gotta quit sleeping with those bird aliens. Chirpies. Chirpies again. Oh, God. Oh, the last time. But yes, chirpies. Well, ew, but yes, and then people were discussing the... okay, yeah, so that's what it is. Cis is kind of the opposite of trans. And, yeah, and male and female are opposite, kind of like that. Or assignment, as opposed to sexual preference. Gay, straight, bi, Q. But not QAnon, Q, plus. that would be a preference. But if it's beyond the preference, though, then it's the other thing. Then it's biological. So it's confusing. It's totally confusing. So there you go. So yeah. Bye. Oh my. Like the time that I was at the convention and I was walking out in my very, very sexy cosplay. What was I, Kirk or somebody, one of the Star Trek people, and someone swatted my ass. Turned around and said, "Who did that?" I wasn't offended. I was like, I wanted to see who did it. And I couldn't find them again. Oh my. To quote Sulu, oh my. The oh my part's Sulu. Anyway, so just to explain all that to you. Sure, why not? This is Erosion. No, not Erosion. This is sort of a sequel to the Wrath Planet, the other episode. We didn't intend to do a sequel to the Wrath Planet episode. We just thought, this kind of warrants a sequel to that. And it's from the Decepticons' perspective. So the idea in this story was that if they already had Wrath, Decepticons are already angry anyway. What would it do for them to be? It would increase, because the planet isn't really doing wrath. What it's doing is it's increasing their ambitions. So if they're hateful, they'll be more hateful. If they're happy, they'll be more happy until they go mad. They got to go mad at some point. So the Decepticons are already there. So they couldn't get any madder. So the ambition would build up on them. They would think, oh, I'm in charge. And until everybody thought they were in charge. And the entropy would break. Essentially, the Decepticons broke the planet. Because, because their ambition was that big. That just... And the twist, what a twist, was that Starscream never had the power matrix. He just thought he did. Because the planet told him it did. So the minute they hit the planet and he hit it as well, they were already captured. So Starscream's like, I'm totally in charge. This is awesome. Yay, I'm in the planet in this alternate universe where everything's cool and I'm in charge. But it's like, no, you're not. And then, of course, the slow robot, which was originally Grimlock. This version is not. This doesn't make sense as Grimlock. We made it the other dude. He's kind of special. He wouldn't be in charge. He just thought he was because all the other stuff. And, of course, Overlord, because his name, thought he was in charge. Windblade thought she was the best because she was Windblade. That kind of thing. Turns out that... and apparently Rodimus, Rodimus followed them. So he knew what was going on. He was with them. Yep. So that's evident. Not as many battles. The tone is different because there's not as many fight scenes. It's more like them talking, but I think it works as a psychological story. I didn't want to have anybody spinning and flying around or anything like that, or do a joke on. I was going to do a joke on the Shining and have like two of them down the hallway going ha ha ha. But then I said, I don't need all that stuff. Why do that? Just tell the story and get it working. So that I did. So we have Transformer story and there's another one out there. Blood Crow, Linda Kelly. Don't know who this is, but she was around as far as at least 17 years ago. If she is still around, sees the story, she gets a byline. We can't pay anybody, so we can't pay her. But we will acknowledge the byline in the credits for this half of the episode. It'll say in the credits. So... we can't pay anybody, because each episode is free, but for free. This one actually did use a lot of the dialogue from the story. The two big speeches were broken up into little speeches because that makes more sense. The second story actually worked, and it's a nice counterpoint to the other story, which was more about the other planet on their way to go there. They were going to go there. And if you watch the whole thing together, well, do watch the whole thing together, you'll get that. That yeah, they complement each other. The stories, male and female, gender and cisgender. That's where I was going. That's where I was going with it. Yep. Assignment or not assignment. Literally. Story or not story. Gay, straight, whatever. It's 2020. Yeah, it's like, why are when would blur the lines? Not blurred lines, but blur the lines. And because Marvin Gaye was way jazzier than Robin Thicke. So Robin Thicke was just rapey. Anyway, yeah, and Shockwave in the other universe gets his comeuppance. You get to see it. It's like, yeah, that character is probably going to reappear though, because sure, it's another one somewhere else in another episode. So an underground, but yeah, yeah. As we threw in political jabs, but it was in the story though. In the story, it was done during I believe, the later Bush years. So, yeah, the beginning of that. So, 97, 98, somewhere around there, early 2000. So later, the Bush senior years or Bush years. It was the Bush years, and so there's some reference to the political parties in there at the time and all that. Well, it kind of updated it a little bit. Made it this year, 2020. Instead of using a line that kind of jabbed it, Bush threw in a line about jabbing it from. Well, just offhandedly, if you want to see it, it's just this one line. It's funny. It's just it's nothing big. It's nothing. It's gonna like, oh, the alt right's gonna yell. It's like, no, it's a Transformers thing. I doubt the alt right's gonna watch it at all for any reason, because why would they care? It's like, except for, oh, there's a scene where a Transformer says, "You're fired." Ho, ho, ho. That's it. That's all it is. There, you got it right there. The making of cancel culture. We're not fired though. We're going on to the next 6 episodes and finish this thing. We have, let's see, it's September, October, November, December. There's only 2.5 months left. Maybe we can get to about 2 of those episodes by the end of the year, maybe 3. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm on mosey on now.